live. Sorry, my screen did something funny then and I didn't realise that we were live. So sorry for the blank pause there. Hello, everybody. It's Helen here from helenmartinonline.com. And as you can see, I have a very special guest with me today. We've got Blair Dunkley with me today. Hello, Blair. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Helen. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to bring Blair on today. Hey, Alison, how are you? Just before I explain the wonderful man that Blair is, if you are joining me live and Blair live, please say hello. Hi, Rob, how are you? Please say hello to Blair as well, my special guest today. Tell us where you're coming in from. And if you are catching the replay later, just put the word replay down below so I can say hello to you afterwards. So Blair is somebody I consider to be very influential in my learning. And how I came across Blair is the easiest way for me to explain this is Blair is my mentor's mentor, if you like. And I was very privileged to be invited by my mentors to go to some very special training in Orlando only a few weeks ago. And Blair and his wonderful wife, Melissa, were the facilitators of that training. So we were locked away with Blair and Melissa for 3 days, learning just wonderful material about how to shift people through their blocks. And Blair's going to be better at explaining sort of his history and what he does, but basically Blair transforms people and helps them shift through the troubles and struggles that they might be having to be a better version of themselves, and business-wise to, you know, work through those blocks so you can have a thriving business. And at the end of the day, generate more income that comes along with that, I guess. Blair, you've taught me a lot, and I really appreciate you giving up your valuable time to let me ask you a few questions today and come live on my page for my viewers to share your knowledge and wisdom, because it's had a huge impact on me, and I know it will have a huge impact on others. And something I want
to do so.
Thank you. And what I want to concentrate on today is this little word why, because people in a home-based business and network marketing, they get told if your why doesn't make you cry, then your why is not big enough. And something really impactful for me in Orlando with your training was this concept why and this word why. But before we get into that, would you like just to share a little bit about yourself and your work? Because you've had a large span of fabulous work over your years. So if you'd just like to share a little bit of that with us.
I certainly would. Thank you so much, Helen. Delighted to. So anyway, I've been around for a few decades. It's not a few years, it's a few decades. So over 40 decades, or over 4 decades now. So I started it with looking at how. Okay, I got to go back to the beginning, and so you're going to get a quick but deep overview. So I am dyslexic. I was diagnosed when I was fairly young, fortunately, and run through a battery of tests for years and years and years, and recognized some of the limitations that I have and some of the strengths that came along with it. The learning disability has been a massive gift, because looking at finding the holes in my ability to learn forced me to find strategies. And the weird thing is those strategies actually were and are very transferable to many, many people. So that was huge. I also got lucky and stumbled across, my mother stumbled across a thing called life skills training centers, and life skills was developed here in Canada and defined the research. The government of Canada spent $42 million over 5 years and defined approximately 362, no approximate about it. It was 362 core competencies. Not the question concepts though, and not the why. That was my own 6.5-year research, because I found gaps they could only work on it for so long. And when we set up the college, my mom and I set up the college, and we took it and we started working through the problems, and I saw some gaps in the research, and I needed to work at solving those gaps, basically because of my own need and my own, my learning disability. I saw things from a slightly different perspective, and I went about and went in and did 17 and a half years of research on all kinds of human potential and behavior issues that we have. We took life skills that was designed to go in one direction and moved it in actually two different directions, one with the mental health community and the other one in job and employment. And that actually took me further after leaving the college and yet still being vice president, but leaving the college and starting my own business as a consultant. I wound up defining the question concepts and finalizing research on that and belief systems and how those worked, and then started finding that the work that I did at the college for people getting them employed worked really well for employers, really well. And when we took and transitioned that, I started recognizing that entrepreneurs, if I took the coping and problem solving issues that came with the early stage stuff and blended that with the business development, and it was mindset back in the day, but it's morphed into mind models now. And the mind models that I discovered and developed and defined really, really worked amazingly well for individuals. And that's actually how come I work with your mentors and quite a few other people. And we help people take their business to a whole different level and in the process make a lot of money. So it's surprising. In 10 years, in a 10-year period, our relatively small number of clients, we actually brought them up by $757 million.
Wow.
So $750 million over 10 years. And that doesn't include the banks, because the banks were on a trajectory. That number is only from our clients that were stuck or in decline for 2 to 10 years before we came on and helped them. So that was the criteria of that number. So anyway, that's a little bit of, I mean, I can go on and on. Like I've taught at universities and colleges around Canada and the United States. I mean, I've been brought in to, believe it or not, dentistry and pharmacy was one of them for communication specialties, business admin, which is obvious, psychology, social work programs, quite a lot. Like that's the tip of the iceberg. And we've trained, I've actually been fortunate to be brought in to train numerous universities and professors on their professional development days. And some of them have come out and taken some of the, well, I've developed counseling programs back in the day, and those spun off into other programs that I morphed into business courses and whatnot. Anyway, it's just the history. It's a,
and it
you
just
live a long life, you do a lot of things.
Yeah, and it shows your impact that you've had on various people, and particularly entrepreneurs, which is, you know, the main sort of people that are listening to you now on my page. And one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is there's a lot of skills that you need to learn with, you know, being an entrepreneur and building your business online. But it's really our journey, our beliefs, what holds us back, that holds our business back. And I see the work that you do and the power in what you teach. And I hope those guys of you that are on with me live, hi Tracy, thank you for sharing, Alison, I appreciate that. Really listen to what Blair's about to tell you about the word why, because it was something that had a huge impact on me, and just learning different ways to think and evaluate and move through life and become a better version of yourself. That's when you can thrive in your business. But until you get yourself sorted out, it's really hard to get maximum potential out of your business when you're not getting
Can I just modify that slightly?
Sure.
It's impossible. It's not really hard. It's not possible. I have never seen people, like, you always run into your own ceiling of incompetence.
Yep.
So if you can't move yourself through that, you can't break through to the next level, no matter what you do, no matter how much information you have. It's just not possible.
Yeah, very valuable. So this question that, home-based business owners, entrepreneurs get told, if your why doesn't make you cry, if it doesn't make you fall apart, then, your why's not big enough, and that's what's going to drive you when times are tough and whatever. Please share your wisdom and your thoughts about that little word why.
Well, as I said in Orlando, and I'm going to say it again here, it's just a warning. This is my soapbox area. It has, when I heard this stuff, and certain people in the business community talk about start with why, and if why isn't, big enough, if why isn't big enough to make you cry, then your why isn't big enough. That just pisses me off. Sorry, I get very passionate about that. It's just very, very aggravating. Mostly because that's about the worst word that you could pick. If you're going to focus on stuff, people go, if you want to do your own due diligence and really think about this, when people discuss why, and they say, here's my why, and they define their why, and they say, and you ask them a simple question, so what is that why? Well, what it is, it's my purpose. What it is, it's my passion. And excuse me, those are not whys. Those are whats. And so you're starting with a word, why, that if it actually was a why, is something that will cause people to stay stuck. Because whys hold you stuck. Because, well, let me just ask this of you. Can you change your past?
No.
No, you can't change your past. Can you change any part of your past?
No, not at all.
No. You can learn from it.
Yes.
But you can't change it. So that's huge. Now, 6.5 years of dedicated research into question concepts. And the why word is one of those concepts, just one. And what whys do, just think about this for a second. Whys create excuses. Why didn't you clean up your room? Why didn't you get your report done on time? Why didn't you, do better at your marketing? Why didn't you, fill in the why didn't you with any other word you want in there that makes sense, and all of a sudden you're feeling emotions. Those emotions are not positive. You feel bad, you feel frustrated, you feel like you've done something wrong, and you feel like you've got to start defending yourself. And that's, in fact, what the word why does at a neurological level in the brain. So it causes this trigger. It causes you to load emotions. It causes you to reflect back, because every one of why, you can even ask, why will you do something? And the why will you answer is you will project into the future, but based on information you've done in the past. So you're still taking past information, putting it in the future, and answering it as though it's already been done. You'll just pay attention to that. Test this out. Don't take my word for it. Just run these thought experiments and real world behavioral experiments, and you'll realize that whys are always in the past. Secondly, they always lead to rationalizations, justifications, excuses, and reasons why things are the way they are. By the way, reasons aren't exactly terrible, but they aren't effective when they're why, because they're past oriented and they generally can be learned from, but generally aren't, because we're feeling defensive, like we've screwed up for some reason. Yep. So not an effective way of going. The next thing that whys do, like I mentioned before, is they load emotions, And most of that, if you're having a conversation with somebody else, causes them to become defensive. So, how are you doing, Helen?
I'm great, thank you.
Great. Why? Why are you great?
Because I'm talking to you.
Do you hear that tone in her voice? Okay, she didn't know that this was going to happen because I'm talking to you. Like, there's this defensive, this pushback, this tonal inflection that's, why are you doing this to me, Blair? What's going on? Like, I don't know what you're doing. Just by asking why. An innocent why. It wasn't meant to do anything, yet it got a reaction just like that. And for me, 100% predictable.
Right.
Okay? It's like, I hate to use it, but it's like pushing a button in your brain and getting the same kind of reaction out of anybody. And by the way, this is true because there are whys. It's a different word. If you speak French, it's pourquoi. I mean, I'm Canadian, so we have French and English language, so pourquoi? Why? Okay? So that why generates exactly the same response in, French Canadians as well as English Canadians, as well as anybody else in any language in the world, because there are only those six there are only who, what, when, where, why, and how. There's only 6 fundamental questions that make up the question concepts that make up, in all languages, there are only those 6. Out of over 6,000 languages that I've studied, only those have those 6 question concepts. No 7th question. I was going to write a book called The 7th Question. But anyway, the answer is there is no 7th question. There are only 6. So that's one of the key things that you need to learn. So the reality of the situation is it's all past-based. It always loads emotion. And it loads emotion more than it gives loads in the information that is embedded in that question. Now, there is information in whys and emotion, but emotion happens to be larger. Just take up more brain space. It's the only question concept that does that on a consistent basis. So those are the sorts of things that happen.
So what's an alternative strategy to, thinking about the word why and asking that question? What should people do to be more effective in their, analysis of things? So analysis to the average person might be, well, why this and why that? So what's a better question to ask? What's a better strategy than to use that word why?
Well, I'm going to flip that around slightly. I hope you don't mind. But I'm going to take it from the basis of a true home-based entrepreneur.
Yep.
Is that fine?
Beautiful. That
okay,
would be perfect.
Perfect. So if you're out there and you're asking yourself why, and you're trying to find your big why, as a lot of people are prone to do, and they're listening to some of the people, the speakers out there that are talking about this and reading things and hearing that whys are really important. Well, instead of doing that, let's focus on what is your purpose. And if you want to get a big deal, figure out and define what your purpose is. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? And what is something that's bigger than you? And usually, but not always, but usually, it's not just about money. It's about family. It's about feeling better. It's about improving self or improving others so that they can be a better version of themselves. That's one of the things that I spent time earlier today talking about with one of our other client companies and helping them become each of those individuals. It's an email marketing company, but the email marketers, we want them to become better versions of themselves, because by being better versions of themselves, they get to play at a higher game. They get to think and problem solve differently with less self-imposed limitations. And if you're a solopreneur, those limitations that you self-impose are your massively critical barriers that you have to overcome, because that's the thing that stops you. Your belief in yourself has to be externally provable. And the only way that I know that you can do that on a consistent basis is by asking yourself 3 basic questions.
Yep.
And we have this whole thing. It's a 3-2-1 evaluation tool. And we get people to really ask themselves, so what worked here? Find 3 things that you did that actually worked. Okay? Discipline yourself. Make yourself look at this. 3 things that worked, 2 things that didn't work, and stop doing them. Don't try and fix them. Don't try and make them better, because most people dive into, oh, well, it's a problem. I have to stop doing that. Yes, you have to stop doing it. And then they say, and fix it. No, stop doing it. Don't fix it. Okay?
Yeah. Just
work off your strengths. This, from a psychological point of view, is many times more effective. And by building your strengths and expanding your strengths get stronger. You do what's effective faster. And you don't feel like you're failing. You feel like you're succeeding. So you tend to do and make more attempts. And one of the weird things, years ago, I don't have time to go into this here, but one of the things that I did a lot of research and I tested this stuff out, and I found that there is a success language pattern. And Y is not part of the success language pattern, by the way. And this was tested with people who were some of the richest people around, billionaires back 30 years ago, so that would make them multi-billionaires today. And they were running some of the most world-class oil and gas company. Jack Gallagher was his name. He's since passed away. But Smiling Jack Gallagher had oil holdings all over the world through his company, Dome Petroleum. It's now not in existence. It was bought by Amoco. But the bottom line here is Dome Petroleum, Jack Gallagher started that with my Uncle Charlie, and Charlie Dunkley. And he was the first person that Jack hired. And they found that people's attitude was the most important factor in success. So it's not your knowledge. It's not, luck plays a significant role, but if you're prepared to have effective attitude, look at your attitude and go, what's working? What's not working? And those are things that'll stop. And what's one thing I'm prepared to change today? And if you turn that into a ritual of doing that daily, 3 things that worked, 2 things that didn't work, and 1 thing to change, in 1 year, that's 365 changes.
Wow. That's
over 700 things that you found that didn't work that you're now stopped.
Yeah.
And you have over 1,000, well in excess of 1,000 things that you know that you've done effectively. Think about that. If you know that you've done that many things effectively, like what's actually worked for you, and you've improved that by another 300 or another 25% actively, is there any way that you can't know within yourself, feel that you're either are successful or are going to be successful at what you do? That's powerful. That's subtle, but it's powerful. And it takes discipline, it takes real work, but when you make those incremental changes without piling on the doubt, the blame, the crap that people are throwing at people, pardon my language here, but seriously, it is criminal. Because they go, start with why. You know how many people I know, like thousands. We had over 1,000 students a year through Life Skills College. I wound up eventually as president, but Life Skills College focused on changing people's lives who were mostly on social assistance with a mental health problem. Mm-hmm. And we had a 76.2% success rate in a 3-year longitudinal study, studied over 10 years. That study went for 10 years,
wow,
but following people for 3 years. And 76.2%. And some of our groups had 100% success rate. And the success was based on they were referred to us by government, by social services, with mental health problems. And those people were unemployed, deemed to be mostly unemployable, yet we would get them with changing their problem solving, not teaching them business skills or anything else, just teaching them coping, problem solving, and success skills. You teach people those things, those fundamentals, and they change everything when somebody can take a look at that. And the key piece to that is knowing the difference between judgment and evaluation. People judge themselves
absolutely
harshly. They judge others harshly.
Yeah.
And you're laughing because, hi there, you're one of them. I caught you right there in LA, actually, in the first time I met you. And there you were judging yourself and, going to town, trying to beat yourself up. And I'm going, no, you're perfect. You're not perfect, but you're perfect the way that you are, and you're improving. And when you take a look at those incremental improvements, life can change. But if you're beating yourself up, and if you were beating yourself up last year, and you're beating yourself up this year, and you don't do anything different, you're going to be beating yourself up next year. Only thing, you have more stuff to beat yourself up with. But the model that I just gave you of 3-2-1, 3 things that worked, 2 things that didn't work and you stopped doing those, and 1 thing to change, your whole life can transform. And you have actually started evaluating. Maybe not well yet, but better than any other time in your life. Yeah. And so this could be a watershed moment for some of you out there that you go, darn it, this is something I needed to do a long time ago, and I need to stop doing a lot of stuff, start looking at what I actually do that's being effective.
Yeah.
And start finding that 1 thing to change.
And I can share with you, like I met Blair for the first time in LA in January, and then we met again in Orlando a few weeks ago. And, just learning in January, these problem-solving skills and evaluating and asking better, questions of yourself. What worked? What didn't work? What can I do?
Can I modify that slightly? 1 word.
Yes.
Better to effective. Better is actually good, bad, better, best. All of those words there, good, bad, right, wrong, are judgmental words. They are inherently triggered to a judgment in your mind, and usually are the slippery slope to a why. But if you replace it with what worked, what didn't work, or what was effective or what was ineffective, you don't feel like you own it. Like, that was effective. Not I was effective, that was effective. I did that, but that thing was effective. And you know that I can control that.
Yeah. And that's
powerful.
It is, and this work that you do is incredibly powerful. And one of the things that I didn't realize when we all went out to dinner on one of the nights, we made a commitment to ourselves when we used the word why, that we would pull each other up on it. And I told this yesterday at the end of my Facebook Live, like I couldn't believe just in general conversation how many times I was being interrupted because I was using the word why, and every time it was like, oh, I've done it again. It's so part of our language and entrenched that when we sit there and go, well, why this and why that, we're just looking for those reasons, excuses, justification. It's all based on the past. It's really hard to move forward and become that better version of you, to have a really fabulous business when you're stuck in that state. So I've sort of lived it and breathed it, and I'm still learning. And, you know, as you just picked up there's better words to use than what we are entrenched with. And it takes time and it takes practice. But if you've got the right attitude and you're willing to learn, what Blair is sharing with us is truly powerful if you take it on board.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Absolutely. No, I recall that dinner there, and it was funny because catching you and just pointing it out, and do you really want me to? And I go, she stepped up and she said yes. And so there were a lot of them, but she started noticing them. And when she changed them from a why to a what or a how or something else, all of a sudden she started not feeling as negatively about herself and didn't have to defend her point of view, but became more open-minded to learning and transforming herself. Mm. And it's effective when you do that.
It is very effective. And I would challenge you, those of you that are listening, thank you for listening and your comments on the side there. I would challenge you to try to take this on board and eliminate the word why from your language if you can, and really think about those questions that Blair put forward for us. You know, what's working, what's not working, what could you do differently, and now. So it's action-based, it's here in the now. The why just keeps you stuck in the past. So it's something really powerful for you to take on board that can make a massive difference in your life and your business. And I can share with you that it's transforming me as a person by taking on these principles that Blair, you know, and strategies that Blair is teaching. So I'm very mindful of your time, Blair. Please send Blair some likes and loves. I realised about 15 minutes ago I've got the panel of Zoom on the side, so I hope the screen is big enough that you've been able to see Blair and I all right, because you shouldn't be able to see that white panel at the side. But not to worry, technology always gets us somewhere along the line. But Blair, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing, you know, some of your, you know, wisdom and what you teach. I very much appreciate it. And I'm sure the people that are watching live and those that catch the replay really appreciate learning from you as well. So send him some likes and loves, guys.
And by the way, if you like this, I do run a free webinar, usually on Wednesdays. It'll start up again in June because I'm taking a trip with my family to Asia. But the Blair Dunkley experience happens Wednesday evenings and morning for you out in Australia. So
how do people get hold of that? Do they just Google the Blair Dunkley experience, or is there a link of some sort?
There is a link. I can actually send you a link if you want to post it along with this. Then I can do that. And there's also Rewiring Your Mind. Rewiring the Mind is one of my websites, and you can jump on that, take a look around, see what other people have learned, and it's got different skill sets and mind models there.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, any of you that are, you know, intrigued by what we've talked about today, and, you know, the wisdom that Blair has got in transforming people, to look him up, get on those webinars weekly. I'll get the link off Blair and I'll put it back in the post. I'll put it in the top so you can get hold of that. And Blair does those weekly. There's always a new mind model to learn. He doesn't ask for anything in return, so he's sharing a lot of his information for free for people out there that have got the right attitude and want to listen and learn. So credit to you. And profiling, yeah, that's one thing we haven't sort of talked about. Blair has the ability to just listen to your language and basically read you and work out who you are and what you are about just by listening to your language. And he does those on the webinars as well. You can get on live with Blair, and just by what you're saying and the questions that he asks you, he can profile you. It's fascinating work. So I'll definitely put that link in there. So
super.
Thank you, Blair. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you that have been on live. You can catch the replay as well and re-listen to, you know, some of the advice that Blair has given. So Thanks again, Blair. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your holiday away with your family coming up. Enjoy some downtime. You deserve it.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Thanks
Pleasure
again.
being here. And thanks to everybody that's out there watching this. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.